Can a person known for, immense good deeds, just unparalleled generosity, suddenly face, well, financial ruin?
Mm-hmm.
And can interference from, say, a supernatural being, seemingly malicious, somehow lead to a positive spiritual breakthrough? It sounds like a total contradiction.
It absolutely flips our usual expectations on their head, doesn't it? We
What?
tend to assume good actions automatically lead to good outcomes and bad to bad, like immediately.
Right. And yet life isn't always that simple. Let's unpack this. Today's deep dive takes us into ancient texts, specifically a fascinating commentary connected to the Dhammapada, sharing a story attributed to the Buddha himself.
Mm-hmm.
And right at the center of this is a figure known for his incredible wealth and devotion, Anathapindika.
That's right. We're drawing insights from the Anāthapiṇḍikavatthu, a narrative that provides the rich context for understanding a specific teaching by the Buddha on the complex ripening of karma.
So our mission is to journey through Anathapindika's life, understand the stunning reversal of his fortunes, explore his unexpected encounter with a gatehouse deity, and ultimately grasp the profound teaching on karma that emerged directly from these events.
Yeah.
We'll see that what appears to be happening on the surface isn't always the whole story.
And crucially, we'll explore what this ancient tale illuminates about the ups and downs you face in your own life.
So let's start with the man himself. Anathapindika is described in the sources as a figure of, well, staggering wealth.
Immense wealth, indeed. He was legendary for his open-handedness. He committed a truly colossal fortune stated as 540 million, specifically for acquiring land and building the Jetavana monastery for the Buddha and his community.
Jetavana, yeah, a name that resonates throughout Buddhist history. And his generosity wasn't just that one monumental act, was it?
Oh, far from it. The texts emphasize his unwavering daily devotion and large-scale offerings. He made it a point to never visit the monastery without bringing something significant.
Like what kinds of things?
Well, gruel in the morning, medicines like butter and ghee after breakfast, flowers, perfumes, robes, other necessities in the evening. Every single day, giving generously and, meticulously observing his precepts.
So picture this. An incredibly wealthy man, constantly giving, deeply devout. You'd think he'd be immune to misfortune, right? Life should be a smooth, prosperous road.
That would be a logical conclusion, wouldn't it? But the story takes a dramatic, almost unbelievable turn. His immense wealth. It vanished.
Vanished. How does someone that rich lose it all?
The sources give specific details on the financial collapse. First, a substantial amount, 180 million, was lost when debtors just defaulted, didn't repay him.
Okay, business losses happen, I guess, though. That's a huge sum. But there's more, isn't there?
Yes, this next part feels like something out of a myth, almost. Another 180 million was in the form of gold, buried along a riverbank. But the riverbank collapsed, and all that gold was just swept away into the sea.
Wow. Okay, so that's 360 million gone from just those two events. The texts indicate these massive losses, kind of accumulating over time, led to his wealth being entirely depleted. The millionaire was reduced to poverty.
A stunning reversal. But here's what's remarkable. His practice of giving didn't stop, even then.
He continued giving even when he had basically nothing.
That's what the sources highlight. Despite his poverty, he maintained his daily offerings to the Sangha. But the texts note his offerings became meager, specifically described as broken rice gruel with sour vegetable water. Very basic stuff.
That's a stark contrast to the, streams of wealth he used to bestow. Did he talk to the Buddha about this change? About the offerings?
He did. He mentioned his coarse offerings to the Buddha, likely feeling the weight of his diminished capacity to give.
And how did the Buddha respond to that, to these humble gifts?
The Buddha offered profound encouragement. He told Anathapindika not to concern himself with the plainness or material value of the gift itself. The focus, the Buddha explained, should be on the purity of the mind of the giver and, critically, the worthiness of the recipients.
Yeah.
Giving to the Buddha and the noble disciples, the Sangha, makes any gift, no matter how simple, incredibly valuable in terms of merit.
He even used an example from his own past lives to drive this point home.
Yes, exactly. He recounted a time when he was Valama the Brahmin. In that life, he performed acts of immense material generosity, like virtually covering the entire continent with offerings. Huge scale.
Wow.
Yet, he explained, he couldn't find anyone who had taken refuge in the Triple Gem to be a worthy recipient. This illustrates just how rare truly worthy recipients, dakinyana, are, emphasizing that the spiritual quality of the recipient matters way more than the material scale of the donation.
So the real value isn't the gold or the fancy robes, but the intention and the sort of spiritual field you're sowing in the merit of the person or community receiving the gift.
Precisely. The state of mind of both the giver and the receiver is paramount.
Now, intertwined with this story of Anathapindika's fortune is this element that takes a distinct turn into the supernatural, this gatehouse deity.
Indeed, a deity residing right there in the gatehouse of Anathapindika's mansion.
And she wasn't exactly welcoming to
Yeah.
Anathapindika's distinguished guests, was she?
Not at all. The sources say that whenever the Buddha and his disciples entered the house, the sheer spiritual power, the teja emanating from them was so intense that the deity found it unbearable.
Intolerable spiritual power.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did she want then? What was her goal?
Well, this discomfort bred resentment, and she developed a malicious intent. She wanted to cause trouble for Anathapindika so that the Buddha and his disciples would simply stop visiting his home. Basically, get them out.
But she couldn't act against him while he was still wealthy and powerful.
The texts state explicitly she couldn't do anything, couldn't even speak against him while he was in his prime, powerful and prosperous. She had to wait.
Biding her time.
Exactly. She waited until he became poor, figuring he'd be vulnerable and maybe open to her influence then.
And she appeared to him at his lowest point.
Yes, one night she manifested in his treasury room, now empty of course, which is a potent symbol of his loss.
And what was her advice? What did this deity tell the now ruined millionaire?
Her counsel was direct and, from a purely worldly perspective, might have sounded like common sense. She told him to stop squandering his vast wealth on the Buddha's dispensation.
Stop giving to the monks.
Yeah. She warned him he'd soon have nothing, not even basic food and clothing, if he continued. Her clear instruction was, scale back the religious giving, focus entirely on business, rebuild your household wealth.
So essentially, cut this religious nonsense, get back to making money.
Yeah.
What was Anathapindika's reaction to that advice?
It was immediate and unyielding. He rejected her counsel completely, calling it utterly inappropriate to shut her down. Yeah. He made this powerful declaration of his faith, stating he couldn't be shaken or moved by hundreds, thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of beings like her. And then he simply ordered her to leave his house immediately. Get out.
Wow. Talk about unwavering faith in the face of everything. Lost his fortune, advised by a deity to abandon his spiritual path, and he just says, get out. What happened to the deity after being banished?
Well, she was in a desperate state. She couldn't remain due to his spiritual power, the power of a stream entrant, a noble disciple, as the text notes.
Yeah.
So she was forced to leave with her children, but then found herself unable to find another dwelling place.
So she's effectively homeless because she picked a fight with a devout layperson.
Yeah.
What did she do next?
She went looking for help, appealing to higher spiritual authorities. First, the city Devaputta, the local spirit guardian.
Yeah.
He refused her. Said Anathapindika was a noble disciple and her words had been wrong. Basically, you messed up, I can't help you.
Ouch. Even the local spirit wouldn't endorse her.
Right, so she then went higher, to the four great things, powerful protector deities. They also refused.
Striking out.
Yeah. In her desperation, she finally sought out Sangha, the king of devas, basically the top god in that celestial realm.
The king of gods. And did Sangha just give her a new home? Or tell her off too?
Sangha devised a plan, but it wasn't just about finding her a place to stay. It was about her making amends and understanding the consequence of interfering with someone of Anathapindika's spiritual stature.
Okay, what was the plan?
He instructed her to take the form of Anathapindika's clerk, retrieve a specific document from him, and then use her supernatural power to restore his wealth.
Restore it how, specifically? This sounds interesting.
Sangha's instructions were quite detailed. She was to recover the 180 million owed by the debtors, locate and retrieve the 180 million lost in the sea.
Okay, the money he lost.
And find an additional 180 million in ownerless treasure, buried treasure, basically.
Wait a minute. 180 plus 180 plus 180? That's 540 million?
Exactly. The exact same amount he had originally dedicated to building Jetavana. Sangha told her to gather all this wealth, fill Anathapindika's empty treasury room until it shone, and declared that this act of restoration was her punishment.
Her punishment was giving him back his entire fortune, plus more. That's a truly unexpected twist of divine justice from our human perspective.
It really is, and only after completing this task was she to seek Anathapindika's forgiveness and ask for a place to stay.
So did she follow through? Did she do it?
She did. She followed Sangha's instructions precisely. She recovered the wealth, the debts, the gold from the sea, the treasure, filled the treasury room, and then reappeared to Anathapindika, but this time in her true form.
And what did she say? How did she explain this sudden, miraculous reversal?
She made a full confession. She identified herself as the blind and foolish deity, acknowledging her inappropriate words stemmed from her own ignorance, her foolishness.
Took responsibility.
Yes. She explained that recovering and returning his wealth was her punishment, commanded by Sangha, and she shared her suffering from being displaced and lacking a dwelling place.
So Anathapindika's fortune is dramatically restored through divine intervention, orchestrated as a punishment for the deity. Incredible. Where does the Buddha come back into the picture?
Well, Anāthapiṇḍika, understanding the significance of this entire sequence, the loss, his unwavering faith, the deity's interference, the divine command, the restoration he brought the deity to the Buddha, he recounted the whole story to the Blessed One.
And the deity. What did she do in front of the Buddha?
She prostrated herself before both the Buddha and Anāthapiṇḍika, asking for forgiveness for her actions and her words.
So this incredible narrative, the immense merit, the devastating loss, the perseverance, the supernatural test, and the miraculous restoration all became the foundation for a central teaching from the Buddha on the nature of karma.
Absolutely. The Buddha used this very story to teach about the complexity of how actions ripen, the concept known as karma vipaka, addressing both Anāthapiṇḍika and the deity directly.
And this teaching directly confronts the confusion we often feel. Seeing what seems like injustice in the world, good people suffering, or problematic people seemingly prospering.
Precisely. The core insight comes from verses the Buddha spoke, highlighting the difference between temporary appearances and the true, often delayed ripening of karma.
Let's get to the heart of that teaching. What do those verses tell us about why things don't always seem fair in the moment?
Well, the teaching explains that sometimes a wicked person might experience good results, seemingly good fortune. But this happens only as long as the predominant bad karma hasn't fully ripened and taken effect.
Okay, so it's temporary.
Right. And on the flip side, a good person might experience bad results, hardship. But again, this is only as long as their predominant good karma hasn't fully ripened.
So the immediate situation isn't necessarily a reflection of the actions they are currently performing or their overall character.
Exactly. The temporary results are often from previous actions, older karma bearing fruit, but the verses make it clear what happens when the dominant karma finally ripens.
Which is?
When the wicked person's bad karma ripens, they experience only bad results. And when the good person's good karma ripens, they experience only good results. The ultimate consequences align with the nature of the actions.
So there's a built-in delay, a complex timing mechanism, and the commentary defines good and bad based on conduct, right? Like actual deeds.
Yes, the commentary clarifies that. A bad person is characterized by bad deeds, like physical misconduct, unethical actions, while a good person engages in good deeds, like physical good conduct, ethical behavior.
Right.
And the temporary positive experience for the bad person, or temporary negative experience for the good person, is explained as the ripening of older, possibly less strong actions from the past that are coming to fruition before the full force of their current, stronger, predominant karma takes effect.
It's like different seeds planted at different times, some germinating faster than others, maybe smaller plants popping up first, even while the really strong ones, the main crop, are still growing beneath the surface.
That's a very apt analogy. The results aren't always linear or immediate with respect to our most recent or most dominant actions. It's more complex than that.
Okay, so what was the final outcome of this whole dramatic episode? For the deity especially, and the audience.
For the deity, the outcome was transformative, really profound. At the conclusion of the Buddha's discourse, she attained the fruit of stream entry, Sotapadiphala.
Stream entry, that's a major spiritual realization.
Huge. Her suffering from being displaced and the confrontation with a noble being, plus hearing the Buddha's teaching directly, it ultimately led to this major breakthrough on her spiritual path.
Incredible, considering her initial malicious intent against Anāthapiṇḍika and the Sangha. That's quite a turnaround. And for everyone else listening.
The texts state that the Buddha's teaching on the ripening of karma was profoundly beneficial for the entire assembly. Understanding this complex dynamic provided immense clarity for everyone there.
So let's bring this ancient story right into your life today. What can, you're listening now, take from Anathapindika's journey, the deity's dilemma, and the Buddha's teaching?
Well, it offers a powerful lens, I think, through which to view the unexpected turns in your own life and in the lives of others. Why do challenging things sometimes happen to you when you feel you're doing everything right?
Yeah.
Or why might someone whose actions seem harmful appear to get away with it, at least for a time? This story suggests that the immediate circumstances aren't the final judgment or the complete picture of karmic results.
It challenges that simplistic idea of, instant rewards and punishments. It implies that the results of your positive actions might be building, sort of accumulating, waiting to ripen fully, even while temporary difficulties may be results of older actions play out on the surface.
Exactly. It encourages perseverance in doing good, regardless of immediate appearances, trusting in the deeper, often delayed flow of cause and effect that unfolds over time, potentially even across lifetimes.
Okay, let's just quickly recap the incredible journey we've explored here. We began with Anathapindika, a man defined by immense wealth and unparalleled generosity, dedicating fortunes to the Buddha's dispensation.
We witnessed his dramatic fall from grace, losing his wealth through, bad debt and unforeseen disaster, a complete wipeout.
Saw his extraordinary perseverance, continuing his practice of giving even in poverty, offering the most humble meals, that broken rice gruel.
Then we met the gatehouse deity, whose spiritual intolerance, her reaction to the Buddhistasia, led her to interfere and offer worldly, perhaps misguided counsel to Anathapindika at his weakest moment.
We saw Anathapindika's absolute unwavering faith as he just flat out rejected the deity's advice and banished her from his home. Didn't hesitate.
Followed the deity's desperate attempts to find refuge, bouncing between higher powers, leading her ultimately to Sangha, the king of devas.
Discovered Sangha's surprising, almost paradoxical solution, commanding the deity to restore Anathapindika's wealth, the full 540 million, as her punishment, orchestrated through divine power.
Witnessed the miraculous restoration of Anathapindika's fortune, filling his empty treasury.
Yeah.
And finally, received the Buddha's profound teaching, using this very story to explain the complex ripening of karma, illustrating that temporary experiences can stem from past actions, while the results of current, stronger actions wait to manifest, challenging simple expectations of immediate rewards or punishments.
The core insight is powerful. The immediate circumstances you encounter in life, the good moments and the difficult ones, are not always a simple one-to-one reflection of your current actions or character.
Yeah.
Good and bad results ripen in their own time, a complex dance of causes and effects from this life and potentially previous ones. It means appearances aren't always the ultimate reality.
It's definitely a reminder that the story of karma is much more intricate than a simple ledger book, much more nuanced.
Which leaves us with this provocative thought for you to consider. How might understanding this complex, sometimes delayed ripening of karma change the way you perceive the challenges you face, the unexpected successes that arise, or even the apparent luck or misfortune you observe in the world around you? Something to ponder as you navigate your own path.